Attention, looking for semi-drivers nationwide. GTS Transportation of Burr Ridge, Illinois is looking to hire or partner with experienced CDL holders in every state. If you are going to drive, why not drive for the best? Whether you are driving solo, as a team, or as an owner-operator, GTS is looking to add you to their rapidly growing company. Become part of one of the most respected, driver-friendly, and successful transportation companies in America, where drivers are treated as royalty. Contact us at gtscarrier.com. Again, gtscarrier.com. Or call us at 847-754-4667. That number again, 847-754-4667. We would love to help you, which in turn helps everyone. GTS is an equal opportunity employer.
Wounded but not broken. With host Patrick Scrogin. As a U.S. Army attack helicopter pilot deployed in Iraq, Patrick faced a devastating crash, which resulted in him dying, losing a leg, and a slew of broken bones. Patrick's story of rehabilitation has helped others to overcome their own obstacles. Each week, Patrick recounts stories of inspiration and interviews guests who have overcome remarkable obstacles. This is Wounded but Not Broken with your host, Patrick Scrogin.
Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome to Wounded But Not Broken. I'm Chief Warrant Officer 2, retired Patrick Scrogin. It's such an honor for me and a privilege hosting this show. Thank you for tuning in and all the support. Wounded But Not Broken will cover a wide variety of topics. My goal is these topics will touch and inspire and captivate you. We all have struggles throughout our life. My hope is that you can relate in one way or another. Tonight, I'd like to share my story of pain, struggle, frustration, failure, and success to help you understand who I am. Growing up in central Missouri, I was just a typical ornery young man. I was in trouble pretty much every day. I grew up in a big family, 5 sisters and 3 brothers. It was very challenging to grow up being the youngest of 9. Everything turned into a competition. So my drive, my determination, my will to succeed came at a very, very young age. And at a very young age, my father owned a flying service, and so my love for flying was naturally born into me. My love for hunting and the outdoors was there since before I can remember. And so growing up and learning to fly at a very, very young age, I remember, since I can remember, I was sitting in an airplane with my father flying, and it just really came natural. So aviation was such a great pedestal for me to and a goal to strive for, because I wanted to become a pilot. I wasn't a stellar student by any means, but I did have a lot of drive, and I had a no-quit attitude from the time I was a kid. One time I think back to a story. I was a pole vaulter in high school, and I was practicing for, I think, the Hershey's meet in Missouri, and I was trying to clear a certain height, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, and my mother had came to track to try to get me, and I wouldn't go because I hadn't cleared the height that I wanted to go. So like 3 in the morning, I think, finally, before I cleared it, but she was shining her light on the pit so I could do it. My uncle was in the military. He was a colonel at the time, and I remember him coming home and the way he carried himself, the professionalism that he had, the confidence, and so that's what really instilled the military mind in me. I really, I was just in awe, with seeing the medals on his chest. You're a kid, and he was in the Vietnam War, and he did a lot of stuff. And so my Uncle Tom was the big push for me to go into the military. Going through high school, typical high school teenager, I was just very ornery. I got in some trouble. I graduated high school. I got a DUI, and so I like to tell this story because there's things now or things then that if you get a DWI or DUI, there's a lot of things that people say you can't do, and this is just a a testament to if you have the will and the drive to do something, and there's nothing that will stand in your way. I mean, you can figure it out. And so I was, a teenager, and so my friend and I were driving a truck, and I fell asleep and ran off in the ditch. He got really hurt. I ended up putting him on my shoulder and carrying him for over 2 miles. His head was bleeding. It was in Missouri in the wintertime, 3 below, I think, with snow, and I was in shorts. I always wear shorts, so it was cold. And so I remember running with him, and I get to a house, knock on the door, and nobody's going to answer the door at 3:30 in the morning, of course. So there was a car or a truck in the driveway that had the keys in it, and so I made the command decision, as we call it in the military, to take the truck to save his life. The hospital was too far away, so the only place I could take him was to the sheriff's station. So knowing I'm turning myself in, I ended up pulling into the sheriff's station and got him the help that he needed, and ultimately I ended up getting a DUI. I couldn't deny it. I'd been drinking, I wasn't going to lie, and so that was just my story of when I'm young, just making a dumb decision. But after that, I had decided I wanted to join the National Guard. So I had to jump through some hoops to get through because of the DUI. But I joined the National Guard and as an artilleryman. And so when I went to basic training, my brother actually joined with me, my older brother. He's 4 years older than me, I'm sorry. And we get to basic training, and both of us are, stellar athletes. We were the best at everything. And we started this little business of hair cutting, because nobody had time to walk down and get a haircut. So my brother and I pulled our money together and we bought clippers. And so we cut everybody's hair. And I remember the next morning in formation, the drill sergeants came out and they said, we butchered some heads up, it was bad. But drill sergeants were yelling and they said, who cut your hair? And they were like, Private Scrogin. And he looks around, he's like, which one? And he pointed at my brother, and so my brother got in big trouble. And I kind of got out of that for a little bit, but that was just kind of a funny story of me starting out in the military. My resourcefulness, and I was never content. And so when I got home, I started the National Guard drills like every National Guard guy does, I guess, so on the weekends. But I'd go in, and it was just boring. We'd sit around, and I was thinking, damn, I want something better than this. So I spent my time in the Guard, did the 2 weeks. The 2 weeks was fun because you get to go out and play soldier, and I love the outdoors, I love camping, and so it was really just natural for me to love the military. But I just didn't like that sitting around and not doing anything, which I don't think really anybody does. But I served out my time there, and it was time for me to figure out what I was going to do with my life. I could have, obviously could have went to college, and I got offered a job in the family business in Texas. So I moved to Texas and started flying crop dusters. As a young 18-year-old kid, flying a $750,000 airplane, carrying chemicals, and it's a lot of responsibility. So I had to grow up really quick. With the amount of pressure that you have, that's a very dangerous job. You're flying 3 feet off the ground, 160 mile an hour underneath highline wires, and I guess my bad luck kind of started to come. In that airplane I was flying in my first year, I had 6 engine failures. I remember the first one. The first one was the worst. I was flying, spraying a field, and the engine just quit, and I was in the top of a turn, and I couldn't see anything. All the oil came back on the windshield, and I just remember seeing like a little red road. So I lined up on it, and I flew through the only 2 trees in West Texas, right between them, and just landed the airplane, and I jumped out, I think, before it even stopped. And I remember just thinking, holy shit, I could have died. And so that was my very first come to Jesus moment, to where I'm not invincible, and it can happen to me. Much more to follow on that come to Jesus moment, but so we fixed that airplane, and that airplane ended up quitting me 5 more times. The last time it quit me, I landed it on the Seminole Highway between Hobbs, New Mexico, and Seminole, Texas. And, that's where I left it. But so I kind of jumped in another airplane for a guy to fly, and September 11th it happened. I was spraying a 482-acre field in West Texas. And I came in to get a load. Nobody was there to load me, and in that business, time is money. And so if you're not in the air and you're not spraying, you're not making money. And I love to make money, so I was pretty pissed off, and I ran inside. I'm like, what the heck's going on? I had no idea what was going on. They showed me on the TV that one of the World Trade Centers was on fire, and at that time we didn't know it was terrorist attack. I mean, we just thought it was an accident. So me being me, I'm like, well, let's get the airplane loaded. I need to get back. So I got the airplane loaded back up and went out spraying this same field. And I just remember getting a call on the radio and said another one hit, and we're being attacked. And sitting in that cockpit of that airplane, I just felt this overwhelming sense of it just kind of like scared me. But because growing up as an American, I mean, we grew up in a superpower. We don't think anybody can hit us on our homeland. And so it had such an impact on me that, and then not only that, but the F-16 that escorted me back to the airport. I was going to land in the field, but he told me I could go back to the airport, so I went back and landed, and I got out, and then I got caught up on the times of what was going on. And I think at that point is when the Pennsylvania airplane had went down, and that was Americans taking over and trying to do what they could to make sure that airplane didn't hit another key target, which then people are heroes in my opinion. But so I had a big decision to make as a young kid. I was doing what I loved. I had a great job, great career going. So do I quit that and go serve my country for a bigger cause, bigger than myself? And honestly, the choice was really easy for me. I mean, I knew I had to go as my calling. So I went to the recruiter office, and everybody thinks that I would go join the military to be a pilot. That wasn't the case. I'd already been flying so much, and after 6 engine failures, I wanted something, I guess, more dangerous in a different way, I guess. I don't know. So I joined as a airborne infantryman with a Ranger contract. So April 1st of 2002, I went off to basic training and it was a choice for me to go to that basic training. I didn't have to, since I already went to another basic training, so I decided that I wanted to go to that one. And it was fun for me. I had so much fun. It was infantry, so it was a little different than artillery, and I gave it everything I had. So the drill sergeants expected a lot out of me because I was always in really, really good physical shape. I did everything, to the best of my ability, and I had a great attitude. And so that was really fun. Go to airborne school. Airborne school was a blast. It was kind of a big vacation, and you're drunk every weekend because you can leave, and you've been cooped up for 14 months. So, a lot of hangovers there, and, you run every day. But the running, I think you run like 8-minute miles or something, so it's not really that difficult. Getting out of airborne school, I go to RIP, and that was a whole different wake-up call. When I got to RIP, it was, you've never seen people run like the Rangers can run. It is insane. And so I thought I was in shape. But throughout RIP, I get pretty much through RIP, about three quarters of the way through it, about 2.5 weeks. And my daughter was born, and she was born with a lot of complications. And so I had to pull myself out, and I went home to be with her. And I had realized that, there was more than just meeting that goal. I had to think about my family. And so we're going to pause here for moments from our sponsors.
You're listening to Wounded But Not Broken with host Patrick Scrogin. We will be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Hey, right on down the line. Come on over.
Attention, looking for semi-drivers nationwide. GTS Transportation of Burr Ridge, Illinois is looking to hire or partner with experienced CDL holders in every state. If you are going to drive, why not drive for the best? Whether you are driving solo, as a team, or as an owner-operator, GTS is looking to add you to their rapidly growing company. Become part of one of the most respected, driver-friendly, and successful transportation companies in America, where drivers are treated as royalty. Contact us at gtscarrier.com. Again, gtscarrier.com. Or call us at 847-754-4667. That number again, 847-754-4667. We would love to help you, which in turn helps everyone. GTS is an equal opportunity employer.
Dallas Corporation and Dallas Logistics, a proud supporter of the Veterans Radio broadcast for over 15 years. High-quality printing services and warehouse distribution have been our hallmark since 1985, serving Fortune 100 companies for over 35 years. Check us out at www.dallascorp.com.
You're listening to Wounded But Not Broken with host Patrick Scrogin.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Wounded But Not Broken. I'm joined here with Lance Hack, the owner of the studio that we're filming this in tonight.
Hey, Patrick, thanks for the inaugural show tonight. It's exciting. I think tonight would be a great night for everybody to kind of get to know you and your story, and we got some great shows coming up. Patrick's got some awesome stuff in the next several weeks. I hope everybody kind of checks out. And so tonight was, the inaugural show, and I'm going to be your wingman just for tonight, just because this is awesome. It's going to be an awesome show, and we're going to try to get as many, millions across America to listen to the Veterans Radio broadcast. So we'll have several shows. Patrick's show is going to be on Monday nights, so you guys can check it out. So it's a great night for everybody to get to know Pat. So he's an awesome guy. Check it out, man. Tell him your story, too, man. Let's not forget some of this good stuff.
Yeah. All right, so I left off with leaving RIP because my daughter was really sick. So I ended up going home, and I decided that I needed to make a better decision for my family. I knew I was going to Iraq. I wanted to
How
go
old
to
were you
Iraq.
at this point?
I was 23. So, I had to set my dream, because my dream was to go to Ranger School, be a Green Beret, and so on and so forth. And that wasn't unattainable. I knew that.
Was your family in the military? I mean, your background?
Yeah, just my uncle. My uncle was he was
okay.
a full bird colonel. He retired as a full bird colonel. And then we had some cousins on my dad and uncle's side. Pretty good military history.
Yeah.
But out of the siblings, I was the only one. Well, my brother went to basic with me, but National Guard was kind of the end for him. So I made the decision that I wanted my family to be as close to my family as I could, knowing that I'm going to Iraq and knowing that it's, I'm going into Lion's Den, right? So I decided to pick the 101st in Fort Campbell, being from Missouri. All my family's in Missouri, so I go to Fort Campbell and got in 2nd 327, a scout platoon. And it was kind of a culture shock for me, because everybody's spooling up for war, and I come in as this hot-headed, I was really in shape. I mean, I was cocky. I always say there's a fine line between cocky and arrogance, and I always had a foot on each side. I think you have to in them kind of jobs. So, we deployed to Iraq February of 2003. I was at the same. Actually, I was on the hunt for the Akbar character that threw the grenades, and that was kind of our first taste. And I remember that night, that British Mirage jet was flying over. That thing blew up right over my head. I mean, we thought it was an airburst Scud. Saddam was throwing chemical weapons at us or something. But that night was a big wake-up call for me. That's when it's real, when you're looking at guys that aren't breathing anymore, and you're seeing all the carnage of what can happen in combat. It was a big wake-up call for all of us. And so I think 2 days later, we ended up going into Iraq. So this is my first deployment as an infantry guy. started at the border, went into Anajef to Al Halal, and in Al Halal we picked up the World Food Program that they had set up, and that, I guess Uday was in charge of that or whatever. So that was like our base of operations. And to this point, we'd been probably 2 or 3 months without a shower. And so I was always known as kind of the resourceful guy, so I always kind of took it into my own hands. We went out and acquired.
So your buddies were following you around and want to know what to do?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, I guess I just didn't have any fear, you know. So a few of us went out and we acquired a couple of fire trucks. And so
borrowed them for somebody?
We borrowed them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, borrowed. We didn't have permission, so. No, we
kind of like that neighbor's car you borrowed first. No.
Yeah. So we grab these fire trucks and we take them back and we string up the hoses and get them full of water, and we put tarps over the hoses and poke holes in it so we could all take showers. That was the best feeling on earth, because at that point, I mean, I only had 2 uniforms, and I wanted to save one to go home with, you know, on my mid tour, and so that uniform would literally stand up because there was so much sweat, and because we'd been worried about chemical stuff. So that was just kind of a pretty memorable experience, because everybody was so happy, you know, that we were able to do that. So pretty much the rest of the deployment, I mean, we just, you know, we did what the Army does, kick in doors and find the bad guys. It takes a pretty big toll on your body, and I remember distinctly we were on the edge of Baghdad, and I had a 80-pound pack on or something, and we're walking, and I'm sweating. It's 120 degrees, and I watch a helicopter fly over. And I was like, damn, that needs to be me. And with all my chain of command and all the higher-ups, they kind of knew. General Petraeus, they all knew my background, so they kind of really pushed me to go through.
You wanted to be in the air and sit on the ground, you mean? Right.
Yeah, well, I wanted both, right? So, but I just figured that, not to sound arrogant, I just figured my skills were used better in the air.
I you had a background, pilot background?
I mean, I had so much experience flying, and the type of flying that I did was right up that alley, you know, being a crop duster. And so,
did they know that before? I mean, that you were a pilot before?
Yeah, everybody knew it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of a well-known thing, and yeah. So we put in my packet, and I actually ended up leaving like a month and a half early from Iraq without my unit to go to Warrant Officer Candidate School, which was a very difficult thing for me, because, you know, you go with your guys, they're your brothers. These guys will step in front of a bullet for you, you know. The camaraderie.
Your buddies go, Pat, where are you going? You're, you know.
No, they were, you know, of course they gave me shit, but it was just, you know, they were. I think everybody was happy, you know. But it was hard for me, because these, you know, I spent almost a year in combat sleeping with these guys, you know, right next to them, and going out on missions, and it's just, you know, you can't explain it unless you've lived it. You can't explain that kind of bond that you develop, especially in combat. And so I get back, I go to flight school, Warrant Officer Candidate School. I remember growing up talking to my uncle and other people about different military schools, and they were saying, you know, this is one of the most challenging officer schools you can go to, and I mean, it was a vacation for me. I loved it. I had a great time. I've always been kind of a neat freak anyway, so that part of it was really easy. And you go through the school, and I mean, these guys run, but you're running with dudes that are broke already, because that's normally the instructors.
Right.
So and then I get into flight school, and my flight school class ended up having the salutatorian and the valedictorian from West Point in my class. So. And then I had a really good friend that was he was a previous crop duster as well. He was in the Mississippi National Guard.
Just happened to be a crop duster guy?
Yeah, it's crazy. So we ended up, we were always jockeying for number one in the class.
No.
Him and I, and then the two from West Point. And so it was such a competition for me, and I don't like to lose. So, you know, that
kind of like Maverick in the movie.
No, I don't think I don't live in an asshole. I just. You know, I just was very confident in myself, and I held myself to a very high standard. So, you know.
No, I meant Tom Cruise and.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Him and his buddy were
competing against each other. I can recite that entire movie.
Right. That's what I meant.
Yeah. So we, you know, in the school, I mean, I studied really hard. So I mean, I ended up being the distinguished honor grad, and was able to pick my platform. And I knew I wanted to fly OH-58Ds, although they were trying to sway me to go a different way. But I wanted to fly OH-58Ds because they worked more closely than anything else with the ground guys, and that's really what I related to with the ground guys. So I ended up just smoking that school and getting out. And then I went to a few other follow-on schools and ended up in Hawaii in the 2-6 Cavalry Regiment. And kind of got thrown in the fire pit there because as soon as I got there, they were spooling up to deploy. And I went straight.
So wait a minute. So you leave the ground guys. You say, guys, I'm going to flight school. And then you wanted to pick a plane that was going to cover the ground guys, so you called your guys and said, guys, I got you covered. Don't worry about it. Right?
Yeah, man, that's it. That's what
Right,
you want to do.
right.
No, when you're flying that platform, when you want to be able to speak their lingo, right?
Right.
So you get a brand new pilot or a brand new lieutenant or a brand new warrant officer that, really doesn't know the infantry tactics or anything like that, and the infantry commander wants him to do something. It's very difficult and it's very frustrating. And you're already frustrated enough. There's already enough stress. And so I just figured, with me being there and understanding how they operate, it would be just so much easier. And so that's why And plus, I'm an adrenaline junkie anyway, so I like being 10 feet off the ground and getting shot at, I guess. But yeah, so it was just we ended up deploying again to Iraq. Kind of the same place, same places, flying in. Our base of operations was out of Kirkuk.
I was going to say, that was the air base out of Kirkuk?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was out of Kirkuk. And so, the first time I was in that area, northern Baghdad, and I ended up in Mosul. And I stayed in Mosul for like 7 months. And it changed so much. Our rules of engagements changed so much from my first deployment to when I started flying. I mean, our hands were kind of tied, and it's a very difficult way to operate as a combat soldier, So it's very stressful.
What do you mean your hands were tied? Do do certain things you had to wait?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I mean, our rules of engagement were, pretty much if you're threatened, you see a gun, you need to take care of business.
Right.
And, that's how it should be in combat. I mean, we're there to do a job, and but as we roll over into the peacekeeping mission, which it's really never been done before, and it's just not very smart in my opinion. But they start saying, okay, well, you got to be shot at or before you can retaliate. Well, that didn't make any sense, I mean, I'm not going to stand there and. I mean, if you're going to go duel a guy in a draw, and you're going to let him shoot first, I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose of the. Flying a helicopter, and plus, you're an officer now, and you're in charge of equipment and soldiers, and so there's a lot more responsibility. And so, it's a very difficult thing going into a fight, thinking that, man, I hope I don't get in trouble for this. If I let this rocket go, or if I let these 50 cal rounds go, I hope I'm not going to get in trouble. And so, it puts the soldiers in a very difficult situation, because we all want to go home too. I mean, we didn't, we want to go home. That's it. I mean, we want to do our job and go home. We were asked to do a job for the country, and we were there trying to do the best we could. Yeah, and we go through this whole thing. I mean, I think I flew over 230 missions in about 6.5 months. Most of it was at night, because we own the night, or we used to. I think technology's kind of catching up around the world.
Right, with that night vision stuff, how is it clear? I mean,
well, it's clear. So it's you have about a 60-degree field of view, and your visual acuity would be equivalent to 20/200. So legally blind, but we're flying a multi-million-dollar helicopter at night shooting stuff.
Right.
Actually, it's really beneficial. It really is, and it's just a difficult thing to learn. It's a new technique, and so right now we're going to break for our sponsors, and we'll be back with you in just a minute.
Awesome.
Put your weapon next to mine. Put your weapon next to mine.
You're listening to Wounded But Not Broken with host Patrick Scrogin. We will be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Hey, right on down the line. Come on over. Come on over. War's not over. War's not over.
Attention, looking for semi-drivers nationwide. GTS Transportation of Burr Ridge, Illinois is looking to hire or partner with experienced CDL holders in every state. If you are going to drive, why not drive for the best? Whether you are driving solo, as a team, or as an owner-operator, GTS is looking to add you to their rapidly growing company. Become part of one of the most respected, driver-friendly, and successful transportation companies in America, where drivers are treated as royalty. Contact us at gtscarrier.com. Again, gtscarrier.com. Or call us at 847-754-4667. That number again, 847-754-4667. We would love to help you, which in turn helps everyone. GTS is an equal opportunity employer.
Dallas Corporation and Dallas Logistics, a proud supporter of the Veterans Radio broadcast for over 15 years. High-quality printing services and warehouse distribution have been our hallmark since 1985, serving Fortune 100 companies for over 35 years. Check us out at www.dallascorp.com.
VBN, Veterans Broadcast Network, brings you Unbroken, hosted by Patrick Scrogin. It lies within you to conquer your greatest challenges. Patrick tackles the stories of how others faced unthinkable odds, and then at a pivotal moment, a change occurred within them that gave them the strength, attitude, and direction to excel beyond the greatest expectations. Listen every week and learn how it is possible to defeat the impossible.
Welcome back to Wounded But Not Broken with host Patrick Scrogin.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We were, talking about Iraq and some of the missions that I've been on, flying at night, and we were talking about night vision goggles. And another capability the helicopter that I flew had, if you've ever seen it, it's got the big ball on top of it. And I could laser designate for pretty much any platform on the planet from, miles away.
How many guys in the helicopter?
Two.
Yeah.
Two guys. It's just a little scout
Is there a
attack
navigator and then a pilot?
No, we're both pilots. You got a pilot in command, and then so normally that helicopter, the guy in the left seat, the guy that's not flying, the guy in the left seat's running the battle, because we're pretty much within every battle, and the capabilities that we have with the sight and being able to designate stuff, it's invaluable for the commander, and we're so close and we can maneuver so well that we can paint the picture for that ground commander of what he needs to do, how he needs to set up his guys.
How fast is a helicopter like that flying?
Well, we flew it with the doors off all the time because it was so hot. I don't think I've ever flown one with the doors on. So with the doors off, it was like 110 was the VNE speed, so not faster than 110.
Yeah.
That may or may not have been broken a few times. And kind of go out the window when you're getting shot at. But so the night that I went down, it was. I woke up and I slept all day because I was on a big mission the night before. And I was actually the air mission commander the night before, so I was running the battle, and it was a pretty high-profile mission. And then
how many helicopters in a battle?
We work in teams, so you might have two teams, so
okay.
A team of two. So you always have they call them like hunter-killer teams. So you got one down low, one up high. You always got somebody covering you. Mm-hmm. And so, I remember waking up and I just had a bad feeling about what was going to go on, and I don't even know if I was scheduled to fly that night. I don't even remember, but I ended up going on this mission, and I was flying, so I was in the right seat. And kind of, I came in over the town. We were working northeastern Iraq, and I remember pulling up and turning left. I was in a really hard left bank, and all the bells and whistles started going off, and I started falling out of the sky like a rock.
Were you hit? You mean?
It was just one thing kind of led to another, and I just found myself. Everything's muscle memory, so everything just kind of slowed down. Really, I remember dropping the collective, leveling the helicopter. I'm looking out in front of me, and what I thought were high tension wires, because there was a bunch of high tension wires all around me where we were operating, and we were operating below them most of the time. And I ended up pulling a little bit of collective to get over the high tension wires. It wasn't high tension wires; it was a berm in a field. So, but it looked, under goggles. It looked, and when we hit the ground, it was just like chaos. I mean, the engine was still going, and you're thinking to yourself, holy shit, what just happened? And so now you're trying to assess everything. So the helicopter had airbags, so the airbags went off, and they slammed my night vision goggles back into my eye. So my left orbital was broken, and my eyeball wasn't quite really in there anymore. My hand was just spewing out blood. It cut off one of my fingers partially, and the other two were cut half off at the ends. My arm, I knew my arm was broke, and because I couldn't grab anything with my left hand. But I'm basically how we crashed. When we hit the ground, it ripped everything away from my co-pilot and put it back over on me. So I was in this big heap of metal, wires. I remember trying to get wires out of my way, and so my co-pilot, he was. I mean, I'm sure we were both screaming to some extent. Because I really didn't feel a lot of pain. That's the thing. I just don't remember feeling pain. I remember thinking, holy shit, this is it. I knew I was messed up. I couldn't feel my legs. I ended up grabbing my left boot, and my calf was sticking out of the boot, and I kind of tossed it to the side, and my tibia and fibula were shoved through the top of my knee, because when I was running down trying to do the battle checks, I hit my bones with my hand. And I was thinking, oh, that isn't good. And
what do you mean your battle checks are?
Just like if you're in a firefight or something, and you feel something, you're gonna start patting for blood.
Right.
In this case, I'm already bloody, but I'm just trying to make sure that everything's still there, because I couldn't feel it. Mm-hmm. And I knew that my leg was really messed up. I couldn't see it. I couldn't really get to it because it was all underneath a bunch of rubble. But I did take a tourniquet and I put it around my leg the best I could. And I remember laying there trying to find my M4, and it was bent. It was no good. I couldn't use it. So I had a pistol, and I'm getting ready for the worst. And I think at that moment, that is when like my life literally flashed before my eyes, because I'm thinking, this is it. They're gonna come get me, and I really don't know how to explain it. I wasn't scared. It was just like, I can't believe this is happening. Yeah. Right?
What about the other guy?
JB, they ended up coming. I mean, so the next thing would be the Black Hawk helicopter lands. The ground guys are coming, and I hear American voices, and they get him out right away, and he's on that first Black Hawk. And I'm still laying there. I was laying there for about 30 minutes, I think, because they had to bring in the jaws of life to cut me out. And so I'm bleeding like crazy. I've got all kinds of internal injuries. I can't move. The only thing I do is move my hands and my head a little bit. And, at this point, I'm thinking, oh, man, this is it, Tell my family I love them. And so they ended up getting me out, and I remember I can still smell it, the jet fuel up the helicopter and the wind. If I lay down and think about it, I can still feel it. They put me in the helicopter, and that's really the last thing that I remember. That's when I died for the first time. So the first time I was dead for 5 minutes, and then so from there I go to Kirkuk, to like the little cash hospital, and they tell him, they're like, man, if he's not in blood in this amount of time, he ain't gonna make it. And that ended up, that flight is a little bit longer. So them pilots and the medics that flew me to Balad are who I owe my life to. I mean, them guys, they went above and beyond. They kept me alive. But I did flatline on that flight again, and I get to Balad, and none of this I remember. It's just all accounts of what people have told me. I had a really good friend, the guy that was in flight school with me, that was the other ag pilot. He was flying Apaches, and when he heard that I went down, they pulled him off the line because we were best friends. And he came in and sat by my bed, so he was giving my family updates. Mm-hmm. I think at that time they'd already told my family that I died. And so now my family's thinking, we lost our son.
How far was it, a 30-minute ride to when they picked you up to the hospital?
Man. in Black Hawk, I don't know. They're much faster than we flew. It took us about 55 minutes to an hour. Oh. So I don't know. I know once I got to Balad, I wish I had pictures, but he, like, the way his name was Bubba. He's from Mississippi. The way he described me was my head was swollen up as big as a basketball. He was telling my family I don't even recognize him, but he knew me. He knew that. He told him, he's like, listen, if he makes it through tonight, he's going to make it. and I think he was just trying to, give my family some reassurance. But I ended up staying there for about 2.5 or 3 weeks till I could make that flight to Germany, till they could stabilize me enough. So as far as the surgeries there, I don't know exactly what they did. Now, once I got to Germany, I made that flight to Germany. I remember waking up one time in Germany, and I was laying in this room, and I had this fixator around me with these 2 giant bolts in my pelvis. So my injuries were, excuse me, I had 9 fractured vertebrae. So from T10 down to my sacrum were all fractured. My sacrum was shattered. My spine was completely detached from my pelvis. My pelvis was broken 4 places. Obviously, I was cut off through the knee, so I was a knee dysartic, and that'll be important for later. I'll tell another story about that. And then I remember looking up, and I had bottle caps on my fingernails. To this day, I don't know why they sewed a damn bottle cap on my fingernails, but I had 2 of them, and I thought it was cool as hell. I remember going back to sleep. I had really bad, my spleen was cut, and I had really bad blood clots in my lungs. So they were giving me all these breathing treatments, from what I'm told. And I think I was in Germany for about 3 weeks before I could make the flight to Washington. And I woke up one time on the flight to Washington, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. And at this point, I'm on so much drugs, and I do remember talking to the the medic there, and I'm like, the airplane's going down. I need to get up and fly it. I mean, my brain this whole time was just making up all this stuff. I was having all these dreams. And so we land in Washington, and I think that's when it really sunk in of how bad I was hurt. When they wheeled me off the C-5 on a gurney on the airport, it was lined with people for 400 yards of just waving American flags, and it was, I don't know. I think back now, and it's just so awe-inspiring to me of how well this country came together after September 11th, which is a shame to see it right now. But we were so united, and I don't know. It was such a warm feeling over me. I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Right.
And they get me up into the room, and my family was already there, and my family comes in to see me for the first time, and my brothers were literally bawling, and I really never seen any of them cry, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was like, I'm all right, man. What's happening? And my brother's like, man, you're missing your leg. And I was like, no, I'm not. I mean, I thought my leg was on the ground. I was on so much drugs, and I couldn't move anything because I was pretty much in a full body cast from underneath my arms all the way down. And so just laying there and hearing all these stories and seeing people feel sorry for me, it infuriated me, because I chose to do this. Don't feel sorry for me, I mean, I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew this could happen. Well, that was my thought at that time. I'm not damn Iron Man, so I mean, I went through a lot of struggles, but at that time I was trying to lift up my family. I'm going to be good. We're going to get through this. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to overcome everything, and I'm going to be the badass I was, right? And so, but it was every day. It was this big pity party. Everybody was like wanting to do all this stuff for me, and I'm like, I'll do it myself, even though I couldn't. But I just didn't want to rely on anybody. So laying in that hospital bed, in that hospital room, I remember the first doctor that came in, and he was, I guess they were testing for traumatic brain injury. He asked me, he said, you know what day it is? And I'm like, dude, what the hell? I mean, I just woke up. I don't even know where I am, I said, get out of my room. And so he goes out and labels me with this severe traumatic brain injury, which I might very well had. I mean, but I ended up, it just pissed me off so bad. All these doctors coming in and just telling me, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that, and because I was very optimistic, and they were taking that out of me. Right. And we're going to break right now, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Wow, awesome.
You're listening to Wounded But Not Broken with host Patrick Scrogin.
Attention, looking for semi-drivers nationwide. GTS Transportation of Burr Ridge, Illinois is looking to hire or partner with experienced CDL holders in every state. If you are going to drive, why not drive for the best? Whether you are driving solo, as a team, or as an owner-operator, GTS is looking to add you to their rapidly growing company. Become part of one of the most respected, driver-friendly, and successful transportation companies in America, where drivers are treated as royalty. Contact us at gtscarrier.com. Again, gtscarrier.com. Or call us at 847-754-4667. That number again, 847-754-4667. We would love to help you, which in turn helps everyone. GTS is an equal opportunity employer.
VBN, Veterans Broadcast Network, brings you Unbroken, hosted by Patrick Scrogin. It lies within you to conquer your greatest challenges. Patrick tackles the stories of how others faced unthinkable odds, and then at a pivotal moment, a change occurred within them that gave them the strength, attitude, and direction to excel beyond the greatest expectations. Listen every week and learn how it is possible to defeat the impossible.
Dallas Corporation and Dallas Logistics, a proud supporter of the Veterans Radio broadcast for over 15 years. High-quality printing services and warehouse distribution have been our hallmark since 1985, serving Fortune 100 companies for over 35 years. Check us out at www.dallascorp.com.
Welcome back to Wounded But Not Broken with host Patrick Scrogin.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Wounded But Not Broken. We were talking about my initial getting to Washington, D.C. in the hospital and doctors coming in and telling me what I would and would not do. I cannot tell you, if you're in the medical field, of what this does to somebody that is that hurt. It's very... It'll just demolish somebody's will, unfortunately. Or fortunately, mine can't be demolished. I'm very hard-headed, I'm very stubborn, and I'm very confident in myself, which really paid off for me. But laying in that bed, I couldn't even sit up, so I'm laying flat on my back. And I did that for about almost 2.5 months. But it was just such a driving force for me. I turned that negative into a positive, and that's kind of the message that I love to portray, because you're never out of the fight, no matter how bad you want something or you don't think you can do it, there's always a way. And so I initially started with that, and I was very positive, and I was very assured of myself, and at times that kind of diminished, and leaving. One of the big setbacks for me in Washington was I was there with all the controversy at Walter Reed when they were having all the scrutiny of what was going on, and somewhere along the line, the metal they put inside of me to hold me together wasn't the right kind of metal, or it wasn't conducive for you going in to getting an MRI. Mm-hmm. And I remember this vividly, because my heart almost exploded. I was so scared, and it hurt me so bad. But they'd turn the MRI on, and I'd hit the emergency stop button. And my brother was there, thankfully. And the technician kept getting mad at me, and I told him, I said, something's not right. And granted, I'm on enough drugs to, get a small village high, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm on so much pain medicine that if it's hurting me at that point, it's bad. Mm-hmm. And this technician's like, no, just let it go, and he was going to disable it or something. I don't remember. I remember my brother saying that he's done. You're not doing it again. And so we go back up into the room, and I think the next day was the first day that I actually got to breathe fresh air. They wheeled me out, and but at that point, my family was already saying, hey, we don't want him here anymore. We want to go to San Antonio, which was the premier place for amputees, because they had the Center for the Intrepid that was all civilian funded. Right. Denzel Washington and a bunch of people got together, and they donated all this money in that multi-million-dollar building, state of the art, and that's where you wanted to be as an amputee. And so I remember that flight. It was on a C-141 landing in San Antonio, the ambulance ride. I get to the hospital, and one of my soldiers from the infantry, the medic, greeted me at the door, and he's like, "Holy shit, Chief, what's up?" And I was, I wasn't in the hand slapping mood. I was hurting. I wanted my drugs. And so anyways, we get to talking, and we're visiting, and now all these doctors and nurses started running around, and I knew it was for me, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. So they wheeled me down into the ER immediately, put me out, and for every other day for 3.5 weeks, I was doing a back surgery, because evidently in Iraq they have their soil, they have this really bad bacteria in it, and I had both kinds, and it had gotten into my bone marrow. And so at this point, I'm really sick, plus all this other stuff. I can't sit up. I'm pissed off at the world. This is when all the depression starts kicking in. This is where the positive Pat kind of gets overwhelmed, right? So I'm laying in bed, and the head infectious disease doctor for the military he came in to actually treat me because it was so bad. And he was friends with another pilot that I'd served with. So, it's all about networking, I guess.
Right.
So, I laying there, and all these different kind of treatments they were trying to do to get my blood cell count up. And, I'd lay in that bed, and I was on so much drugs, and I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing. I was laying there in just a depressive state, thinking, why me? Why did this happen to me? Why did this have to be me? And, that went on for a few days, and I put up this big front, because I didn't want people to see me, depressed, or to see me, sad or crying or whatever. So I'd wait till everybody left the room, and that's when that stuff would happen. And I realized about a week and a half after all the surgeries had been completed, that it was when my family wheeled me out into a hall in the BAMC. The whole side's front windows, and I was on the 6th floor. So they wheel me out in the hall, and I'm looking out these windows. And I still can't sit up in my bed, so I haven't sat up for like 2.5 months. And I remember just rolling my head over and looking at this guy, and he was burnt. And he was burnt 99% of his body. His name was Merlin German, worst burn survivor in history as far as I know. And he had such a great attitude. And, he was trying to fist bump me. We just couldn't reach each other. And, we kind of visited for a little bit. And it was time for me to go back in because some doctors were coming in to see me. And I remember going back in that room thinking to myself, damn. What are you bitching about? You better be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and figure out how to get up out of this bed, because it can always be worse. Mm-hmm. So that was the biggest turning point in my life to that point, because I just told myself I'm never going to bitch about anything.
Did he survive?
He did for about 2.5 years, and he went in for just a basic reconstruction surgery on his face and never woke up.
Wow. No.
Yeah, he used to wear a shirt that said, less than 1% chance of living, what the hell are you going to do? He didn't have a nose or ears, or greatest guy on earth. He's such a good guy. So that was a huge turning point for me. I think everything really started to come together after that. Initially I could start sitting up in bed, now up to like a 20-degree level, no further than that. And then that's the first time that I got to see myself. My physical therapist had come in, and he was like, you got to go through one more back surgery, and this back surgery was going to be a bitch, because they had to go back in and take all that metal out and re-break my pelvis and reset everything. But after that, he goes, as soon as you recover from that, we're going to hit the ground running. And they strapped me to this bed, and they stood me up. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and I just started crying. And, I was 220 pounds, 6% body fat before I got hurt, and I'm 138 pounds now. My leg is the same size from my hip to my ankle. Mm-hmm. And I just started bawling, and then I passed out because I've been on my back for 2 months. So a few days later, I go in for my that last back surgery, and that was the worst pain that I would ever experienced in my life. I remember telling them, just kill me, just put me to sleep. I don't. My sister was in the recovery room, and she could hear me yelling, all the way into the ER. I was screaming. And then I'll never to this day understand why, but they could have, while I was knocked out, they could have taken the damn x-rays then, but they waited till I woke up to take me in for x-rays to x-ray everything. And every time you moved me, it felt like you were hitting me with a sledgehammer, you know, it hurt so bad. I get out of that. The next obstacle that I had to overcome was the drug addiction. Because, you know, the stories that you hear of you going in, hey, my ankle hurts, and they give you a whole slew of pain medicine. That's true. I mean, they'll give you whatever you want. And at that point, I was on so much pain medicine that I can't even fathom it now. I don't even know how I could breathe. But me being me, I don't ever do anything half-assed. So I just quit it cold turkey one day. I just stopped. Dumbest thing I ever did. I didn't sleep for like 7 or 8 days. A lot of TVs and shit got broke. Going through the withdrawals, all the anger. So they went back in and they put me into a medical induced coma. And then coming out of that, I kind of weaned myself off of it right. And still to this day, I mean, it's very hard for me to take anything for pain. Even if my last knee surgery, they gave me the pills and I threw them in the trash. I just have this block. I don't want to depend on that stuff, you know. So, now I'm released from the hospital. I can sit up, but I still have to wear this big, ugly brace, and it was a personal thing for me. I really didn't want to get in a wheelchair. I didn't want to get dependent on a wheelchair getting me around. So I used crutches, which they hated, because if I fell once, I'd have been paralyzed, right? Because it's a miracle that I'm not now. So I became Speedy Gonzalez on crutches. I mean, I went everywhere, downtown, Six Flags, everywhere. And, with this big old brace on that braced my neck. And
what were you eating to put on weight, Manny?
I ate everything. I ate prime rib. I mean, I've never been much of a sweets guy. You know, I try to eat healthy, but if you eat enough of that, you'll put on weight, trust me. I got pretty fat. I really did. And, but, the crutches really helped me. It was such a mental success for me, being able to, navigate everything on crutches. And I could go all day. People, just had a hard time keeping up with me. And, and then it came time to put on my first leg. And I put on my first leg, and I remember feeling that sense of defeat again. I was just like, oh, this is what, because my muscles were so, they didn't work because I had so much nerve damage and everything. So I looked like, I don't even know what I looked like. It was terrible watching me walk. But that determination and that positive attitude and that mental fortitude that I had really got me through it, because I'd go home with that leg and I would get in the mirror and I'd just walk back and forth. I'd do it. I mean, I didn't sleep much. I still don't sleep much, but I'd just walk back and forth and just concentrate on keeping my shoulders level and concentrate on trying to engage these muscles. And that really paid off until I went to go fly a helicopter. And I went to go fly a helicopter for the first time, and I went in and got in, and my knee hit the dash. And so I go back in and I said, hey, got to cut it higher. No. And they were like, huh? No, you don't want to cut it higher, because, it's like the lever arm principle. The longer it is, the easier it is going to be for your walk. And I was like, I don't give a shit. I want to cut higher. I'm going to fly. Mm-hmm. So I go back into surgery, and they cut my leg higher, so that's another month and a half of recovery before I can wear a leg. But my knees are even now, and so that was just another personal goal. And they caved in, and I got it cut higher, and I started flying helicopters again. And but the funniest story, I guess, with me flying, it was just a confidence builder for me. I wanted to know I could do it. I knew I could do it, but I needed to prove it, right? So my family owns a flying business, or my brother does, and so I left the CFI on vacation to go fly an airplane, and that's all I wanted to do. I didn't care about the vacation; I just wanted to fly the airplane. And at that point, I couldn't take my leg with me because it was a liability, I guess, or something. So I distracted my therapist, and my son grabbed the leg, took it down the car, so we stole it. And so I go fly this airplane, and I knew right then, after I landed that airplane, it was a tail dragger, it was a Super Cub, and I knew after I flew that, it was all easy going from there. There was no stopping me. There was nothing I couldn't do.
Pretty incredible, Manny.
But yeah, and it's I've always said that the big things in our life arise when we need them the most. And so that transition from the military to civilian life, I was already had it in my head that I'm going to fly. I'm going back to flying. I don't care if it's medevac. I don't care if it's, in Africa for a private company contract. I didn't care. I just wanted to fly. I didn't care if I got paid, honestly. I just wanted to do it. And I was walking through the CFI. I'm getting pretty close to getting out of the military, and there was an FAA representative there, and my therapist said, "Hey, you'd be a great candidate for this." And it was air traffic control. And the lady said, and I was like, I'm going to fly. And the lady goes, "Well, yeah, he can't do it anyway." And I was like, I said, "What? I can't do it? What do you mean?" And she goes, "Well, we're worried about traumatic brain injury and your cognitive memory and all this stuff." And I was like, shit, no, I can do it. And so that became my focus right then. I mean, you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I ended up doing all these tests and ultimately getting hired for the FAA. But getting, that transition from military life to the civilian life was the hardest thing by far I've ever done in my life. That camaraderie they have in the military, it's just not there in the civilian sector.
Right.
Just it, And I get to my first facility and I see all these people griping about, having 45-minute breaks and working an hour and off for 45 minutes, because air traffic control is a pretty high-stress job. But I'm thinking, man, what are you griping about? I mean, you got a job, you get paid and good money, and it was a culture shock for me. So it took me a little bit there, and I, going through that, I got a call. I was always a big hunter, big outdoorsman. I got a call from Chad Hall from Sheep Shape. He asked me. I'll never forget. I was sitting in my office, probably playing a game. I wasn't doing any kind of business work, playing a game or something. But so I was sitting in the office, and Chad calls me, and he's like, "Hey, man," he goes, "I understand. I've read your story," and he goes, "Hey, do you think you can hunt sheep?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, I can hunt them." He goes, "So you can climb a mountain?" I'm like, "Yep." And at this point, I'm not in the best physical shape I've ever been in my life. I've got a keg, and I'm thinking, but it was instantly. I've always wanted to hunt sheep. It's the most challenging hunt on the face of the planet. And instantly, I knew I wanted to do it, and so that was my new goal. And once we settled on it, Sheep Shape was an awesome show. I got to meet a lot of awesome people. Rick Carone was actually from the Chicagoland area, played for the White Sox. He was on the show. He passed away from pancreatic cancer, so he was stage 4 when we started the show, and such a great man. Chad Hall was a cancer survivor as a kid. Kelsey Buford was. She went through life, with a lot of stories of assault and different things as a child. So we started this show, and I started training like I was training for the damn Olympics or something, like every day. It didn't matter if I was walking to the mailbox, I had a backpack on, or
right.
I was in the gym lifting weights, and they always kept telling me, "Man, them weights aren't going to get you."
Start working out for the mountains, though. You're going to go to the mountains.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but they gave me so much stuff they gave me so much crap because I was lifting weights,
Right.
heavy weights, and I was getting big, and they were like, "Yeah, that's not going to get you up the mountain. That's going to be worse." I'm like, "No, I guarantee you. This is just I go. It makes me feel good. I'm going to get up that mountain." And that first hunt, man, I was in heaven. I ended up. We hiked for 8.5, 9 hours to get on this ram. I've kind of always been renowned for long range shooting. So I think that first sheep, if I remember correctly, it was 863 yards. Dropped him, and I'm thinking, now how the hell are we going to get to him? Because it was like a 2,000 foot straight drop down here, and then, so we ended up having to go all the way around. It took us 6.5 hours, 7 hours to get to him. And sheep are, super regulated, and as a conservationist, you don't want to leave anything behind. So I had my cameraman and 2 other people with me to help pack out, but I was adamant. I wanted to pack my sheep out, right? So my pack was 90, 100 pounds. And these people are looking at me like I'm crazy because we're going up and over a mountain, And anyways, it took me 13.5 hours, but I made it back to camp. And it was just a personal goal.
You have a video. I saw a video of that.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
right. You could probably see it on our website. And
yeah. There's all the sheep hunter videos.
it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. It was such a great time in my life. It's kind of a way I got to get away from everything. And,
Right.
And
We're going to have to save some of those stories for the next show, man. And what's cool about it is Patrick flew here in his own plane. How was that?
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I guess next week we'll continue on, and I'll finish these stories up, but all the way up until here.
There's a lot of stories. So, hey, it was great to be your wingman tonight, and lots of great shows. We got a live studio audience. How about giving yourselves a hand for hanging out with us?
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Patrick's inaugural show. Guys, it's going to be around the world. Check it out, you guys. Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah.
So put your weapon next to mine. So put your weapon next to mine.
You're listening to Wounded But Not Broken with host Patrick Scrogin. We will be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Hang right on down the line. Come on over. Come on over. War's not over.
Attention, looking for semi-drivers nationwide. GTS Transportation of Burr Ridge, Illinois is looking to hire or partner with experienced CDL holders in every state. If you are going to drive, why not drive for the best? Whether you are driving solo, as a team, or as an owner-operator, GTS is looking to add you to their rapidly growing company. Become part of one of the most respected, driver-friendly, and successful transportation companies in America, where drivers are treated as royalty. Contact us at gtscarrier.com. Again, gtscarrier.com. Or call us at 847-754-4667. That number again, 847-754-4667. We would love to help you, which in turn helps everyone. GTS is an equal opportunity employer.